Hello and welcome to Big Picture. I am Vishal Dahiya and today we will talk about the issue of gender equality. According to the first SDG Gender Index released this week, no country in the world is on the track to achieve gender equality by the year 2030. The Sustainable Development Goals, which 193 countries signed up in 2015, creates a global roadmap to eradicate poverty and protect the planet. The Gender Index, developed by Equal Measures 2030, which is a joint effort of regional and global organizations, says that approximately 2.8 billion girls and women live in countries that scored very poor or poor in the ranking. India is ranked 95th among 129 countries with a cumulative score of 56.2 out of 100. Health, hunger and nutrition and energy are some of the parameters on which India has scored very well, but its lowest scores are on partnership, industry, infrastructure and innovation. So what are the challenges and the roadmap in achieving the target of gender equality both in India and on a global level? For this, we have with us a distinguished panel of guests in the studio today. Let me start by introducing them to you, beginning with Ms. Yogita Bayana, social activist. We also have with us another women rights activist, Ms. Shankar Agarwal, also an advocate in the Supreme Court of India. And we have with us Ms. Barkha Trehan as well, an equal rights activist. We're also joined by Mr. Shankar Agarwal, the former Secretary of Ministry of Women and Child Development. Welcome all of you to Rajya Sabha TV studios. Let me begin with you, Yogita, first of all. If you look at the report in a holistic aspect, then overall, the global scenario is not that promising because the report's conclusion is that the target 2030, which was for gender equality set for all the nations, is not going to be met even by those countries who have scored very well, around 88 to 89 out of a score of 100 here.
It's quite evident. See, for this to be seen in 2030, some foundation has to be laid right now. And we don't see the foundation. How much are we struggling that women representation in parliament, women representation in politics, and other areas as well? You don't see women out there. So, but within the four walls, you can only see them. So, to see any result, one step has to be taken. And unfortunately, our country has not taken a step in the right or wrong any direction. They have not taken the steps, but state-wise, some parties have given some representation so that they bring the legislation for the women and they do something on these parameters. But let's see, the new government has come in and what they think about it, the new Minister of Women and Child, what she thinks about it and what she delivers is a thing to ponder on. And definitely as NGOs or as activists or as social movement, it has picked up only on the sexual violence cases, but equality is still yet far and empowerment is very far. But you see the decision of Delhi government also giving free right to women. Do you think giving free rights or it'll actually distessing us further? It is also disgracing the women and their dignity, and it is also creating more far difference.
Okay.
So we have to see the decisions also.
Okay. So there are several aspects, in fact, and if you look at the parameters, I'd like to bring in Ms. Shankar Agarwal here on this. If you look at different parameters, Ms. Agarwal, there are several on which all these nations have been listed and scored.
Yes.
In India's case, we've done well in some of the aspects, health, hunger, nutrition. But, aspects like industry, partnership, these are the parameters on which our country has not fared well.
You're absolutely right. As long as we continue to think of women as the weaker sex or the unequal sex, this kind of a situation will remain. And women, ultimately, it will probably go down to our cultural values or to the values which we've all grown up and inculcated in our families as we grow up, that women are just supposed to be, first of all, probably just homemakers. And as far as talking about partnership and industry is concerned, I do not think that whether globally also women are considered even capable of being, shoulder to shoulder along with men in industry and in other larger aspects of life.
In fact, so not many countries have done well on those parameters out of 129.
So in fact, India is not as bad. In fact, I'm rather surprised to see the report which says that if the other countries, which are the so-called forward westernized countries, are also faring badly, then India hasn't come very badly behind. And if we continue to think of women as a very limited role only of mothers and sisters and of wives, and we do not think of them equal to women, equal to men, this kind of a situation will remain, and we will continue to think of women only as somebody who is trying to come as close to men but cannot come further than men. Okay. And what is most surprising is that India, being a democratic country where we have a constitution also, which is also promising that men and women are equal. So Article 14 on one hand is talking about equality to women. At the same time, Article 15 is saying that if we have to make the lives and careers of women and children better, then there can be positive discrimination also to bring them forward in society. But now an abysmally low situation is there that we are not exercising that Article 15 to give positive discrimination to women and make them come forward in other aspects of life, which will give them a stronger picture of empowerment. If you're going to only empower them by giving freebies, as Yogita was talking about, by saying that, look, we are going to give you free travel in buses and metros, rather this is lowering the dignity, and this is going to create a further divide, and it only shows that probably women are not capable of doing something more than that, but all that they deserve is probably some kind of a freebie. I think this is really something which has to be addressed.
Okay, so creating more avenues and opportunities, that is one, summary aspect of what you're saying here. Let me bring in Mr. Barkatreyan here. If we look at the concept of gender equality, then there are several parameters in terms of sustainable development goals, which this report, which has been released recently, talks about. But if you look at India's case specifically, what are the areas which you suggest or which you believe should be the focus areas in achieving the target of gender equality?
See, for me, again, I don't understand this study. This is so-called gender equality, and we're talking about gender equality since we've been in the studio. And does this gender equality report consider men? Have they studied the men? No, they haven't. You can look at the NGOs who've been participating in it, who are all women NGOs. So you didn't even study men. And if this is the report which says 95th position India stands, and if you would have studied men, it would have been the last, even worse than that, you can say. Because in India, there is nothing for boys and men. There are no studies. They don't even think them to be human beings, or they are third-class citizens in the country. They don't have any law for them. They don't have anything. They don't have any, you can say, anything from the government or any support from anywhere. They don't have any where they can address their issues. They don't have any ministry.
There might be isolated cases and independent cases as well.
But
the numbers are speaking otherwise.
The problem is this only. The problem is this, that you never address the other numbers. You don't even know crime against men, and you don't talk about that. So that is what I'm trying to bring here, and my perspective is a different perspective, that when you haven't included men, how can you say it is gender equality? I totally don't agree with this report. The second thing is about the population. See, ours is such a populated country. How can we compare to those Western countries they have named? Ours is thickly populated. And how much survey have you done? How many people have you counted in for this? So we need to understand all that, and still India is at a better place, and we are always, maybe it a politician, maybe it anybody, you can name a person. There is only women appeasement in going on right now. Somebody is giving, like my friends have just now told you, that somebody is giving you freebies in the metro and buses. Somebody is saying lifetime education free for girls. Only girls. Then somebody comes and says something new. So another day comes when they will say that Mars, go to Mars, send all men to Mars, we will live alone. So what sort of gender studies are we going in?
That's an interesting aspect, Mr. Rayan, and I would like to have your response on this, Ms. Agarwal.
Just mention one line which I forgot to, that the latest, the government, the new government which just came in, gave a new thing to they have given scholarship. To girls it is 3,000 and to boys it is 2,500. Why this discrimination? Then we come and talk about Rajya Sabha, and we come here and we talk about gender studies. Why this discrimination?
That's a very interesting aspect of the entire situation. The other gender which we're talking about, when we talk about equality, we say women have to be equal with men. But what Mr. Rehan is pointing out is that in fact men also needs to have more avenues, given more avenues. So how do you look at this?
I agree and I disagree both, I'll say to that. that in all fairness, where those particular incidents have been pointed out by Ms. Rehan, yes, it's correct. Certain favors, rather, I will put it like that, are given to women. For example, this scholarship of 3,000 is given to girls and only 2,500 to boys. So why couldn't it have just been the same? It could have been the same amount. We're not asking for more. There are certain things where rather favoring women gives rise to inequality in the society.
Yes.
We are not, women are not asking for favors, they're not asking for freebies.
No gender divide.
They do not want that a divide should be created where men, on the contrary, start feeling isolated.
But a
So if
section
you're
of the
going to-
society has been deprived for long. So you'll have to
Yes.
have that positive discrimination
Yes,
which you're talking about,
yes,
Article 15.
So as far as Article 15 is saying that positive discrimination has to be there, but that positive discrimination should be exercised in a more positive manner.
Okay.
So why don't you give positive discrimination in Parliament? Why don't you reserve seats for women in Parliament?
Okay.
Why are you just giving us small
No,
doors?
no,
Okay,
I
okay.
just
Let me,
I just
Mr. N,
want-
Mr. N, let me bring in a gentleman who's there on the show with us, Mr. Shankar Agarwal. Two questions. One from you've been part of the government. You've been a secretary in the Ministry of Women and Child Development. One from that perspective. What are the various steps which have been taken over the over a period of time? And two, this aspect of men versus women, the way Ms. Rehan is pointing out, that men also needs to be given their due.
All right. The first question is the various steps taken by the government to ensure that women get their due rights. The first and the foremost is the step taken under Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Idea was that we must discourage this evil practice of female infanticide. And we got to educate our masses, we educate our people, even the educated one, they had to be educated properly, that it is a good thing to have girls as well as boys in the family. Our society at the moment is basically a male dominating society, and this mindset has to go. And it will take time, but all out efforts are to be made so that we treat girls as equal as boys, if not better, number one. Number two, we got to ensure that they get good quality nutrition also, so that they are able to develop physically as well as mentally. And again, government has initiated a large number of schemes where the nutrition is being, or additional nutrition is being given to the girl and the girl student. And third, and that is the most important, and that is the education of the girls. Unless we spend heavily on the quality education, not the education alone, but the quality education, and unless the girls get educated decently, they will not be able to compete with boys and men.
Okay.
If you want girls to come in the industry, if you want girls to come up in innovation, it is very necessary we give them the best quality of education in the best institution of this country.
Okay.
We got to find out ways and means of achieving this target. There can be a number of ways and means. There is no one solution which will fit every side. Idea is that we must make conscious effort and a very positive effort, and in a mission mode kind of a thing, that we got to educate our girls in the most decent and purposeful education.
Okay.
And coming to this gender,
To the second aspect.
inequality between the men and the women, I think this is basically a bogey. At the moment, our society is a male dominating society, and that's why there is a discrimination against women. But once they come up in life through education, through nutrition, surely they'll be able to compete, and they will be able not only to demand the equal right, but they will be able to get what is due to them.
Okay, so create more avenues, create more opportunities again, and conscious efforts as well. Let me bring Ms. Behana here. You know, the aspects which were pointed out by Mr. Shankar Agarwal, and I'm looking at the numbers here as well. Health is India's ranking, and the score, in fact, is 79.9. Hunger and nutrition is 78.2. And then, you know, in terms of the enrollment of female students in the primary education, that's whooping 95.3. So these are the parameters on which we have done well. So why not, you know, match the same zeal and the same enthusiasm on other parameters as well? The industry, partnership, entrepreneurship, and as Ms. Agarwal was pointing out, the aspect of equality in politics.
Absolutely, I agree that those basic things were in place, like Anganwadi workers and Asha workers. They are the military, beautiful military working for women, and I have been part of that. I have seen their working, so that's why those parameters are good. So we need that same approach for giving the infrastructure for working women and promoting them for working in a better environment, giving them the services, the creche services, like and also the paternal leave. We will come to that also, so that the husbands are also taking part, because once it's a big challenge for women to work. So you will see them in schools. Till school you have saved them in the womb, which is a beautiful program which they run, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, and it has definitely worked. Now you are giving them nutrition also, it has also worked. So you have enrolled them in schools also, but what next? Will she be able to go to work? For that, you need to create that environment. You have to create the safety. You have to create the infrastructure in the offices. The sexual harassment at workplace is still very prevalent, and it is still there. So you need to, see holistically and take care of all the aspects one by one. No one solution. You have to work constantly. I think if these things can be done, those things also can be sorted out, and we will head in the right direction.
Several parameters there, and you pointed about the from the industry's perspective. One private company's example, which has just come up with a 26-week paternal leave for
I have a point on this.
New parents. I will come to you, but let me bring in Ms. Trehan here. Aspects like these and steps like these do address the questions which were raised by you, but then as Mr. Shankar Agarwal was saying, that ours has been a male-dominated society. So that is a clear indication that the female sex, the other gender, needs to be given that fillip.
See, again, it's a myth that is a male-dominating society. This is a myth. Now, secondly, I will come here with the Beti Bachao, which he said that Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao was a good initiative. No doubt it was a good initiative. But what we do is, we say, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, as our Prime Minister very well said. So, we have to uplift the girls and the boys both. We have to talk about youth empowerment rather than only women empowerment. Women are already very, very empowered in this country. We need youth empowerment, which we want men and boys also on the same pedestal. We want them there. And then another thing, in this country, we always talk about gender equality, but we don't have gender neutral laws. See the discrimination here. See, this is why what is happening is that we are turning into a suicide capital. India has having so much suicide rate. We continuously keep on calling India a rape capital, but it isn't. It is a fake propaganda. It is becoming a suicide capital
I'm
just
sure,
because of this.
Not many people will agree with you on two aspects. One is the safety of women, and the other is that women are already empowered too much. But one aspect, the gender neutral laws.
That they have 50 laws in the country and not
the
even
gender
a single
neutral laws. That is what I'm bringing Ms. Agarwal. Ms. Agarwal.
I'm pretty evident.
Ms. Agarwal, from on this aspect, the gender neutral laws, a lot has been said, a lot of studies have been done as well. So that is also one very important aspect which Ms. Trehan is pointing out.
To this, I'll say that first of all, I'll pick up from where Mr. Shankar Agarwal said, and I'm very happy that being a man, he's admitted the fact that it's a male-dominated society. So there have to be some some laws which have to be totally pro-women. We have to have those kind of laws. We cannot do without them. At the same time, I do agree with Barkhaji also that there have to be some gender-neutral laws. For example, as Yogita ji was talking about sexual harassment at workplace. So it is an admitted fact. Let's not just push things under the carpet. The amount of harassment that women face at the workplace, and we're not talking about only the organized sector. What about the unorganized sector? So that's what I'm coming to, Barkhaji. That where the unorganized sector is concerned, the sexual harassment that women are facing over there, that is not even accounted for. Those things don't even reach the media. The police also doesn't know about them. So yes, we do need some gender neutral laws, and for that we already have the sexual harassment of the protection of children from sexual harassment. That is one of the first gender neutral laws that our country has, where we are recognizing the fact that it is not only girls who get sexually exploited, but even boys get sexually exploited.
53%.
Yeah, so that is why we do.
that's a significant number.
So we have a gender neutral law for that. But I do agree with what Yogita ji had said about sexual harassment at workplace. We must have a law of protecting men also from sexual harassment at the workplace, because the number of cases which are now building up against men, and which are probably putting them in a state of depression, that where they get targeted, where they even some of them even reach the level of committing suicide. So we do need some laws for workplace also, for men also.
In a nutshell, we're talking about the safe environment, both at the workplace as well as at home as well. Let me bring in Mr. Shankar Agarwal here. Mr. Shankar Agarwal, the aspects which you were earlier talking about, like nutrition, education, hunger, all of them seems to have been tackled well by our government, and it's a sort of a work in progress as well. We yet to achieve the desired targets, but then we're doing well. These aspects specifically, if we are looking at the safety, and then when we're talking about the partnership aspect and the representation in the industry as well, these, I believe, are the areas of concern.
Absolutely. First is that when you say that the girls are being motivated and there is higher enrollment of girls in the school, it's only a statistics. What I was aiming at, that we got to ensure that they get access to good quality and purposeful education. It is only a kind of enrollment in the schools. That is not sufficient. We got to ensure that they get good quality education, meaningful education, number one. Once they graduate, thereafter they had to go to the work field. And for that, we got to create an enabling environment where they can work with decency, with dignity and self-respect. And for that, we got to create a little bit of infrastructure. And as Secretary Labour, we try to do a lot of things for them. We were trying to bring in a legislation which will ensure the good quality toilet facilities in each and every establishment, and where the establishments are very small, maybe a group of 50 establishments can create good kitchen facilities, good bathroom facilities, and a whole lot of other things. Secondly, regarding the safety and security of the women, again, this is a neutral, gender neutral kind of a thing. And under the Factories Act, you will find that adequate provisions are made for the safety and security of the worker. But in addition to that, for women, we created many more new regulations, and which ensure for safety of the girl. And if a female is being employed during the odd hours, she has to be transported back to her house, that means from factory or from the establishment to the home. And it has to be ensured by the employer. And not only that, for the maternity benefit, for the first time, when the Secretary Labour, we introduced a bill and we got it successfully passed from the House, and it has become a law that instead of 12 weeks, now the maternity leave is for 26 weeks. And that is applicable to all female workers, whether in informal sector or informal sector. The only problem is that how to ensure and how to enforce these laws in informal sector. And we have to sit together and find out ways and means of ensuring enforcement of these laws even in the informal sector.
So basically you're saying that there has to be a better implementation, and enabling environment has to be created. Now let's have one concluding comment each from all three of you. One, in terms of the road ahead, what are the focus areas? Because we have to meet this target. Even if you look at the 2030 deadline, looks like the report itself says it's looks like impossible as of now. But then we have to keep on moving. So what are the focus areas which, according to you, Yogita, should be the cause of the main focus here?
The main focus should be the implementation of the current laws, the full potential implementation, not just the the eyewash kind of a thing. And we also spoke about the Zomato giving paternal leaves. I wanted to make a point there also, that you give, like you are making laws and you are making policies, it's a very good welcome move. But whether this guy will go and give to his partner, will he take care of the child, or will he go have fun with his friends, or will he just have another job to take? So I mean, these are the things. So proper implementation is the key. You can have good laws, we already have good laws, but we need to see how they are implemented.
Mr. Rehan?
I'm very thankful to people like Mr. Shankar, who have given such a lot of advice that women and child, he represents WCD. So wish We could have a men's ministry who could look in policies for men and boys, who could look in the health issues men are facing, who could make real gender equality challenges, and we could make India a better place so that we can compete with the world. And then I'll again come in the show and thank you for doing this.
Okay. So that is again definitely a very important aspect when we talk about gender equality. But Ms. Agarwal, concluding comments from you in terms of what needs to be done from the aspect of both aspects, what Ms. Trehan is saying and Ms. Bayana as well.
I think the first thing I'll say is that real education begins at home. So I think the quality change has to come from the house itself, from the home. So until and unless we first target our own children, whether they are boys and girls, and bring them up in a healthy environment and educate them about their rights as well as duties as being citizens of India, respecting men and women. So women have to learn to respect men and men have to learn to respect women. So that fundamental growth has to come from the house. Thereafter, schools and other education institutions and the workplace have to look at that factor. And secondly, I think that education is still a neglected field. We may talk of Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, etc., etc. But do they actually get educated? Do they just get paper degrees, or do they really get educated from within? So we have to educate more women as well as men. They have to be aware of their rights as well as duties, which the Constitution has given to them.
So a lot needs to be done, and as our panelists have pointed out, that the key focus areas should be a change in the societal mindset, number one, and two, enabling environment, also putting the infrastructure in place and making a concerted effort to go ahead and bridge this divide and ensure that we achieve the target of gender equality soon. We'll come back again tomorrow with a different topic and different set of guests. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.